Hello, it's Dr. B again. Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Madeline Boskowitz. I want to remind you of my books, which is what I'm teaching in this course. So it's the I Want to Be Me course. I'm teaching from the Guidebook, I Want to Be Me, and from its accompanying workbook, and which just came out earlier this year. You can see the same girl is here, but she has a lot of friends now. And I shared with you that I will be going on vacation, so I'm recording many of these lessons at the same time. So if you see me wearing the same thing each time, that means that I'm really doing it during the same afternoon. I'm not just wearing the same thing every day and have my hair look exactly the same. But I imagine you'll understand. So this is because I'm going on vacation for 2 weeks, and I don't want you to be missing any lessons. I also want you to take whatever time you want. So if you're on vacation and you want to skip lessons, or skip studying, that's of course great. I love to just drop out when I'm on vacation. But I, of course, don't advise you to skip any lessons because they are going from one to the other. This will be the last. So this is chapter 3, part 5. This will be the last part of the first part of the chapter. Chapter 3 is quite long and it is named, let me just go back here, New Skills Lead to Independence and Responsibility. Chapter 3 is mostly covers the preteen, but in this first part covers the preteen years, the skills that people start developing after they turn 10 or so, when they're really not quite the dependent children that they used to be, and they are anticipating that they will be adolescents. They're certainly looking at peers who are already adolescents, who have developed physically and sexually. And this is a very exciting time. You're wondering about what your life is going to be. And at the same time, it is a very good time to learn some very basic skills that will help you for the rest of your life, not just the teen years, but it will make the teen years much easier and more exciting if you've learned basic hygiene and taking care of your room, which is your environment, if you're lucky enough to have a room of your own or share one, when you have a home, which again, if you're lucky enough to have a home, a lot of people your age do not have homes. Some live in shelter or in shelters or in foster homes. So, and that is a home, but it's not quite your home. It's different. Anyway, if you're very lucky to have a home and to have chores and to help out, it's great if you have a good, stable situation. And I certainly wish that for you. So I also talked about your responsibility in learning, getting the homework done. The homework is for you. It's not for your parents, for your teachers, or anybody else. It is for you and your future. The skills that you learn at this age, the basic math and reading, are essential if you want to get out of difficult situations like poverty and alcohol and other problems at home. Get an education. And if you are behind, this is the time to really put on the effort that it takes. Go to after school sessions, preschool sessions, whatever you can get to, get the help that you need. If you have a handicap such as ADHD or dyslexia, there is help at school. Make sure that you take advantage of it. Don't be afraid to get help. And there are help in after-school programs in the community, sometimes in your church or wherever you go. There is help, maybe with neighbors, maybe at home, with parents, with older siblings, older brothers and sisters. There is help. So get what you need. This is very important. This is what I call responsibility for your education. Is make sure that you're learning. Ask questions in class, even if it's embarrassing. If you didn't understand it, lots of other people didn't understand it. And you are there because you're entitled to an education. So make sure that you get it. And the teacher needs to know when you are doing well and not. So make sure that you do the homework because it really helps you to understand whether you understood or not. And, if you reread the work and you read it enough times, you will understand. There is help online. There is so much online if you can. There is Khan Academy, which explains everything in great detail. There are other resources. I see them advertised on TV and they are usually free. So make sure not to miss out on anything. It's worth it. It's for your life. So then I went on to chapter 3, part 4. Yeah, this was chapter part 3. So part 4 was about taking care of your own mental health, naming and recognizing your emotions, learning that I forgot to set a timer. I'm sorry. Let me just do that. I was all decided not to forget, but things happen and we forget. So here it is. I have a timer. I try not to go too long with a lesson. So, but anyway, how to recognize your emotions, how to recognize how you react when you have emotions. Not one thing I won't talk about is controlling your emotions. It's very important not to control your emotions. It is important to control your behavior in answer to emotions, but not the emotions themselves. The emotions are very useful. They tell you how you feel about what's happening around you and to you. So they are like measuring your temperature or, looking at yourself in the mirror. It is very important to recognize and acknowledge your emotions. And it is equally important to learn to manage, not control, but manage your behavior, how you respond to the emotions. And I talked about that in terms of your own self, so that you learn to be aware of yourself, but also in terms of others, how to manage encounters. And there it's mostly unpleasant encounters. We talked at some length about being bullied and how to avoid letting others push your buttons. This was in the last lesson. And by the way, you can listen to these lessons more than once, particularly if you don't have the books. If you have the books, you can go through them, and really work on the pieces that are helpful to you. But if you don't have the book, I think this is the next best thing you can learn to, you can listen to it over and over again. So how important it is to learn to manage. And I use the personal example of me, two of them actually. One where I was fairly happy about my response and one where I was not, because it takes a lot of time. I shared with you that learning how to manage and not letting others control you is extremely important. And it's one of the big, big things that brings success in life. I brought up in the movies, people always know just how to respond to a negative situation. And that's great. It's not real life, though. In the movies, somebody wrote the script, had the perfect answer, and everything is fine. But in real life, it doesn't happen that way. It takes a lot of practice. And as a matter of fact, in a later chapter, I have a section for this again, and I have it as a printout on the website. Remember, www.iwanttobeme.org. I have it as a free thing, so I call it the do-over. It takes a lot of time to learn. Some of us are better than others, but it's worth learning. It is really important. I was just thinking that when they talk about our current vice president, whose name just escapes me this moment, I'm sorry, but that she was described as unflappable. that when she was in the Senate representing California, she would not let anybody get her goat. That's an old expression. She would not let anyone push her buttons. She was unflappable, and that is the goal. But as you can hear, this was said, of course, in admiration. It is not so easy, even for senators, to be able to manage their behavior. And as a matter of fact, right now we see a lot of bad behavior. So, but in the meantime, I want to go back to the emotions because we do learn to manage our behavior in response to them. But let's go back to the emotions because it is very important to take care of these emotions, particularly if they are negative. So thinking about the example that I gave at work, where this coworker put me down in front of 4 or 5 people, and I was really embarrassed, but I decided not to show it. I decided not to respond to him because I would sound very insecure if I did try to defend myself. I would just decided to let him make a fool of himself, which I think he did. But I was very angry and very upset and really trying to decide how I would get this straightened out with him. So I went home that day after work, not right then and there, but after work, and did what we call self-soothing. This is part 7 of chapter 3, part 1, for the first section on preteens. But I talked about self-soothing. Self-soothing, taking care of oneself when we're hurt, angry, afraid, whatever, is extremely important. It doesn't just go away, and it's important to go home and do what it takes to take care of yourself. So I want to so how do we take care of ourselves when we're upset? There are good ways and not so good ways. So let me start with the good ways. What I would do, or what I did do, though this was a long time ago, I don't remember what I did, but most likely I went home and just thought about it and decided I had to do something to straighten it out so it wouldn't happen again, because as I shared last time, I was still going to be around for another week or two, and I certainly didn't want another put down in front of a team. So I did a lot of thinking. I kind of like to think my way through things, but sometimes one just needs to go home and cry, or go home, take a bath, go home, eat, which is not so positive, but a lot of people do that. We eat our feelings. We push them down. That's not a positive thing. Listening to music, reading, maybe listening to this lesson so that you learn how to manage yourself and your behavior, finding ways that help. I had clients, I had one young client who listened to music and danced when she was sad and had to work through something. It's a usual term that we use. We're working through our feelings. A lot of people just go and throw themselves on their bed and cry, or at least mostly girls, because boys are unfortunately taught not to cry, that they can't cry. But, crying is letting go of the feeling and giving ourselves a chance to heal. So crying can be a very good way to self-soothe. Some people keep a journal and start writing. Some people have a punching ball and they'll go throw a few baskets and, try to get that tension out of their body, which is very good. I had a young client who used to run down the street and climb into a favorite tree. I think I mentioned that one in the book. And why not? I have other clients who've hidden in different ways. Sometimes we also hide in our own mind. We kind of drop out for a while and take care of ourselves. But at the same time, there are other ways to manage difficult feelings, or at least to avoid them. And these have to do, one with eating, which is not great, but not terrible. But there are much worse ones, like doing drugs or drinking alcohol, which are not. They may ease the pain at the time, and I know that many of you do engage in that. Go smoke marijuana. Um, the problem is that it does not um, soothe the feelings. It may do so momentarily, but you will remember the anger and the fear, but also it creates its own problems that you then have to work out of. So certainly that way they're not recommended. Going to climb in a tree or going and throw a volleyball or a basketball or whatever kind of ball you want to throw, or some people have a punching bag at home or punch your pillow. These things release the tension without being harmful. So they certainly are much more recommended. But at the same time, and I'm just going to check the book. So what kind of things do you do for comfort when you are upset, when you're seeking? Little people, 2 and 3 years old, 4 years old, even 6 years old, have a favorite toy or teddy bear or blankie that they go to when they are upset. They may be sucking their thumb, which is not great either, but it certainly is soothing, or sucking any other finger or the blankie. That's okay too. So, what do you do? Maybe try to identify what you do when you are upset, when, what works for you. And what may you, so I like, maybe list of positive things like reading, journaling, these days with all the video games, I do engage in little games on my computer. If I'm anxious, this relieves a lot of anxiety. It's a little bit avoidant, but it serves its purpose and it doesn't harm me or anyone else. So, but are there also negative behaviors that you might engage in, like alcohol or drugs? Or sometimes people want to do something mean, bully somebody, steal something, damage something. All these things have negative consequences, and I certainly don't recommend them as a ways to relieve your pain. So, but it would be important to, share for yourself again. This is private. What you engage in that's not so positive. I think the least positive one that I do is eat, and then you put on weight and feel guilty about that, and so. But still, not everything I do is positive. I don't drink. I don't break anything, but I've been known to eat when I'm upset. So. Can you think of things that you would like to try that you haven't tried? Like journaling, like writing about, finding solutions, maybe finding a way, like I did eventually, to figure out what I was going to do and to make sure that I didn't just forget about the incident and leave room for it to happen again. Because if you don't react, or if you don't act, don't respond to the person who has aggressed you, you are giving them permission to do it again. So it is important to respond. And as I described in the last segment, I did corner him a couple of days later and, told him very clearly, don't you pull that kind of crap again. And he never did. So he got the message. He didn't even respond to me at the time. I don't think he just walked away, but he heard me, that was for sure. And I made it clear that I was not in the mood to put up with his aggression, whether he got the job that he wanted or not. I eventually did get the job. I did get invited to stay on and be an administrator. But so that felt very good a year later when I got invited to stay on as a permanent position. I did leave pretty early after that because I got pregnant and wanted to stay home with my first child. But so that tells you how long ago that was. That was a long time ago. So, but this is it for today. And next lesson, we're going to start the, oh, I think we're not. I just found no, it is. We will start instead of being in the workbook for the pre-teen years, we are going to be in the workbook for the early teen years. So, and I will be taking a couple of more lessons, probably tomorrow, so that I have all this to leave to you when I am on vacation, and they will come in every couple of days as usual. So this time I have almost stayed under 15 minutes because I started the timer late. So that makes it easier. So I hope you enjoy this and that you find it useful. And eventually, when we'll have the Q&A session, you are more than welcome to ask questions. And if you have questions now, post them on the Facebook page. Post the questions under my video, and then I will respond to them either right away if it's urgent, or during the next Q&A, which will be in a couple of weeks after I come back from vacation. So, and there will be a lot to go over by then. Maybe we'll do a couple, or maybe I'll do one during vacation. I'm not sure what I will be doing. We'll see. Maybe I'll just do one next Monday and respond to the first pieces, which is probably the best idea. So I will be announcing the Q&A to talk about what I just covered in the 5 sessions. That's probably the best. So before I even leave, we will do a Q&A on this first part. So I think, not sure. We'll see. I just realized that you won't get to see these until next week. So we won't do the Q&A right away. We will do it after I come back. So, but take care, enjoy this work, make it useful for you, and I will be back very shortly. Thank you. Bye-bye.